But it does help you, just from a pit stall selection standpoint, especially in this race. Whoever can qualify, you don't even have to qualify on the pole. You just have to beat these other three, and you're still going to get pit stall number one, and that's the big thing. But I don't think starting position is necessarily a huge deal in this race, just because it seems like the championship four guys can always get through the field, just because the field obviously knows what you're racing for, and they're really respectful about that. But yeah, it's still, I would much rather start first than 25th or something. But yeah, I don't think it's as big of a deal as people probably make it out to be outside of the pit stall. The pit stall definitely makes a difference.
That made a difference for Larson.
Yeah, the pit stall definitely makes a difference. But they did change how pit road is now, so it's not as big of an advantage, but it's still definitely an advantage.
Okay, thank you. When you stop and you look back at where you were this time last year and how much things have changed, have you had time to do that, and what are your emotions in doing that?
I haven't looked back a ton about it, but just a year ago, I remember literally sitting on the grid crying because like the chapter of my life, I dreamed of just racing in Cup, right? But to do it for the guy that was your hero, and specifically the car that you like cheered for as a kid, and knowing that it was shutting down, and just the friendships and everything I'd made, that part was the saddest thing for me last year, just knowing that chapter of my life was coming to a close, and just not knowing what the future held. I knew I was going to Joe Gibbs Racing, but you never know what another organization's going to feel like. And yeah, this week, all the 14 guys, we still have a group chat. They all were sending me like motivational videos and trying to pump me up. And Boswell sent me a text this morning and then sent me a video of all his kids wishing me good luck. So, that part of it, brings me back to last year and just knowing what that group meant to, my family, truthfully. Yeah, it is crazy, what a difference a year can make. You go from, being sad and down in the dumps, and, I don't know, it was just weird. We were the last people to leave last year because we didn't want it to end. We knew when we walked out the tunnel that group would never be together again, and they literally kicked us out. Like, they forced us to leave. We were here longer than the champions. But hopefully this year I'm the one that's here the longest again.
What were some of the motivational videos that you got sent? What was the best one?
Probably Boswell's kids. That one was a good one. They were all jacked up. And then all the 14 guys, they do this thing where they take shots of Fireball all the time. So they all of them took a shot of Fireball and was like yelling for me and JD, my car chief. He came from the 14 car, so they were like, go get him, chasing JD. So those were probably my two favorites.
Winning at Talladega kind of organized extra prep for this race. I'm wondering, do you feel now going into Phoenix that extra week was really beneficial?
I wouldn't say, like, from my standpoint, it was really an extra week. It definitely, I guess, gained us a day of sim time. But I can't speak for James and the engineers because I'm sure that they were working way more on Phoenix than I was, just leading into. But, last Friday before we went to Martinsville, we went and ran sim, right? And that's something that if we would have been in a must-win or whatever at Martinsville, we wouldn't have been doing that. So that definitely, I think, was an advantage. And, yeah, even just as an organization, right, like Joe Gibbs Racing has been able to spend 3 weeks, on Phoenix. So hopefully that'll make a difference for us this weekend. And, yeah, I guess we'll find out.
You and Byron are the only two of the four to have wins at Phoenix in this car. Would you consider that to have a leg up, or was that win 3 years ago, was that long enough to where it doesn't really make too much of a difference at this point?
Yeah, I don't think it makes a difference. It's nice that I've won here before, but that was the first year next gen, and nobody even knew what to bring setup-wise. That was like the third or fourth race ever in next-gen era. So, yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot you can take away. And even the racetrack's different. Like, that time I was running basically the fence in turns 1 and 2, and we don't really do that anymore. So, yeah, I don't think you can take a lot away from it.
How much coordination has there been between the two Joe Gibbs teams?
From my standpoint, I don't know because I'm not the one building the setup. But – yeah, I'm sure, that there's still coordination, especially with our teammates, right, with Ty and Bell. But, I know Denny ran my setup on the sim, for example, and I saw kind of what his notes or comments were about it. I never ran his sim or setup on the sim, but, they were at least running ours. So I guess there's some correlation there. But, yeah, from my standpoint, it's felt the same as every other week.
What advice has James given you about this weekend?
Honestly, nothing. We still have not really talked about it. Like, we still don't really ever talk about the playoffs. He's just talked to me about just Phoenix in general, but it's the same conversation we had when we came here for race 3 or 4. You know, there's been nothing about championship really, other than he sent a text to our entire group chat about how let's just, you know, this week give it everything we got and just pay really extra close attention to every detail. But yeah, there hasn't really been any other conversation about it.
In regards to Phoenix, since they've been hosting the championship here for the past several years and now potentially it's going to be gone for a while, is there any, or are there any unique memories to Phoenix for you?
I think the biggest thing about Phoenix for me is it is where I got my first Cup win. So just, you know, coming back to this racetrack, there's a lot of memories, you know, just from that day. So that's the biggest thing, is just, you know, going back and, you know, I can kind of remember like standing on the front straightaway and like looking in the grandstands and just that whole experience in Victory Lane. And yeah, you never forget your first win. So that's the thing I think about when I think about Phoenix. And yeah, hopefully I can be thinking about my first championship too.
Do you have any rituals when you come here? Anything you like to do or eat or?
No, I normally hit up a Whataburger at some point. I like Whataburger. But nah, nothing crazy.
Reach out, maybe they need to sponsor you.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Was it figured out what happened to the motors last weekend?
I have no idea. I just know the thing blew up. It was something, I think, with the valve cover. I know the valve cover had a hole in it, but outside of that, I have no idea. I know it was something different for all three of us.
Any concern because of that, or just, you know, just one race and you guys have been pretty good most of the season?
Yeah, I mean, statistically, it's happened once out of 35 races. So, I mean, it's not like it's really been a concern for us. I don't know. There's two ways you could look at it. You could look at it as, man, it's the race for the championship. Like, hopefully, you know, it doesn't happen this time, or it's kind of the best race for it to happen. You know, there's obviously been a ton of extra attention now this whole week, and you know, as far as the 19 team goes, that was really the only race outside of the first round of the playoffs where no races mattered for us. And if we were going to blow up, that'd be kind of the one to do it in.
Do you think Toyota was sort of pushing the envelope there, maybe?
I don't think so. I mean, not by the way they acted, at least. So yeah, I think it was just one of those deals where we blew up. And Martinsville's really hard on stuff. You're shifting so much, and you know, turning the thing a ton of RPMs, and yeah, I don't know. It was unique how it was all different for all of us. But yeah, I don't, you know, based on the meetings that we had Monday, I don't think there's any concern for this weekend.
Steven Stumpf of Frontstretch.com here. Come back for more great racing videos, and if you like us, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.